Hello and welcome along to a very special prediction show from the Honest Football Podcast. We're probably going to make ourselves look a little bit stupid again, as we have for the championship ones. No complaints this time, please, gentlemen. But we are going to be predicting the outcome of Exeter v Northampton, a strange Monday night playoff game that is probably going to be played in front of an attendance of 0 at Wembley Stadium. So let's talk about it. Obviously, it was two eventful semi-finals on the return for League Two. And we have got a lot of information to get through. And then you guys are going to get the easy bit, which is telling us what's going to happen. And if you're wrong, you look stupid.
We're wrong 90% of the time anyway, so it doesn't matter.
That is a very fair point, well made, Craig. But anyway, we're talking about the stats for the game. So let's go into it. Exeter v Northampton, the two winners of the semi-finalists. Exeter finished 5th, despite having the 4th highest points total in League Two due to points per game. Northampton finished 7th and snuck in right at the end. In the semi-finals of the playoffs, we'll start with Exeter. They were unfortunately really struggling after the first leg, a 1-0 defeat away at Colchester, but they came back to win in extra time after a late scare in normal time in the second leg. A 3-1 victory with Ryan Bowman sealing the victory. For Northampton, on the other hand, it was even worse than the first leg. A 2-0 defeat at home to Cheltenham Town before a thrilling comeback in the second leg. A 3-0 victory for Northampton, 2 goals for Morton and 1 for Oliver. And Craig, I'm sure you've got a lot to say about the defending and the goalkeeping from Cheltenham on that day.
Yeah, it was absolutely perfect. The centre half didn't control it the first time and then just stopped. I don't know why, what he was thinking. And credit to Harriman to pounce on it, and credit Morton to actually capitalise on the mistake. So well done to Northampton coming back and 2-0 down.
I've got to say on that though, and I know that there hasn't been a lot of football played because and you could argue they're rusty, but in that magnitude of that game at that time in the game as well, surely you just put your foot through it. Now, I never understand that, and I've done that in a cup final, so I can say that, but I don't understand. Getting near the end of half time or getting close to half time at the end of the game, just put your foot through it. But I don't honestly see what was going through his head. I don't know. In that point as well, just ridiculous. However, what I will say, it probably means if your name's on it, like Northampton, you start looking at those omens. Could you possibly sneak it in the last?
Considering we're all three of us are defenders, and pretty much at least one person is still playing. Well, just about playing now. It is absolutely criminal to just completely switch off and think everything was all right. It was absolutely embarrassing defending, and I'm flabbergasted, really.
A great use of the word as well, by the way. I guess what I do want to point out for the Cheltenham goalkeeper in particular is he was brilliant in the first leg, saved a penalty, did really well. But that second leg is probably what that season's going to be remembered for. Obviously, we're not going to dig into the controversy of who decided to play on and not to play on, and then who ended up losing and winning in the playoffs after that, because I know we don't want too many Tranmere fans getting upset, and there's already enough controversy.
Well, it's not obviously about Tranmere. It was pointless anyway. And obviously, we spoke about it before about money and all that stuff. So
just move on, as you were saying, Craig.
Yeah, I think it's fair that we covered it all in the League 1 and 2 episodes. So we'll move on from that. I guess what we want to talk about now, lads, after glossing over the semi-final performances and 2 very good comebacks, is what's going to happen for the final. Because it seems on paper that the 2 most experienced sides have got through. And there is experience and names aplenty that we recognise from both sides. So, Craig, you already mentioned one from Northampton. We'll start with them. Northampton have got the likes of Michael Harriman, the former Luton Town player, of course, you'll know well. And there are plenty of others there too. We've interviewed Chris Lyons on the channel. He's alongside Alan McCormack in midfield. I know Chris Lyons was an unused sub in the second leg. So was Paul Anderson. But there is experience aplenty. So do you think that will play a part?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Like Alan McCormack, no, excellent player for Luton Town. Your favourite player for the last few seasons. He was absolutely vital for Luton last 2 seasons. And I would say experience is key.
What I would say is it's not just experience. You can have players who are experienced in staying up, but you're talking about lads there who've actually got experience of being promoted, have played in the big games and I think there is a difference in the style of football you play when you're trying to get promoted from when you're trying to stay up. So it's not just having 400 games under your belt, it's where have those 400 games been and where have you ended up with those 400 games, as an example. So actually, I think those names you listed, they're all players who've been promoted through the league. So I think that makes a big difference to answer your question, Dan.
Yeah, thank you for actually answering it. I do appreciate it. I guess you mentioned a key point. Obviously, we talk about Alan McCormack being the most recent example, but the fact is that he was involved in 2 successive promotions for Luton Town, including out of League Two. I know obviously not via the playoffs, but that sort of experience of recent promotions in the dressing room is sure to be important. And obviously, Keith Curle, it has been talked about, perhaps not the most tactically gifted manager. And Craig, I know you're already shaking your head. But one of the things that players that have played under him on this channel, in fact, have said is how good he is at motivating people for big games. And there aren't many bigger ones.
Well, what I would say, just really quickly, it's a mentality thing, isn't it? You said about, even if you haven't been promoted through the playoffs, it's knowing what to do in the key moments of games. And I think if you've been promoted and you've been in that environment, you know what to do, when to slow the game down, when to speed it up, as a player, I mean. So I think that's a sort of, experience that they're bringing in with that. Sorry, Craig, you were going to say about Keith Curle.
No, I was just about to say about what he must have said before the game, the second leg, considering they were down. And you say about motivation was that. So he obviously he's got that spot on. I think he's learned from his previous playoff woes with Carlisle a few seasons ago. So hopefully he's used that experience to hopefully go over the line this time.
Yeah, couldn't disagree. I've got to move on to Exeter before we get into your predictions. So obviously this is their 3rd playoff final in the League Two in 4 or 5 years. They have had some disappointments at Wembley. And I guess the question I wanted to ask you, rather than experience of players, which they've got in abundance as well, is will the experience of Wembley playoff final defeats be important to them?
It's a burden, isn't it? Yeah. I've had cup finals, played at the same ground and lost every time. And we know Sunderland have lost cup finals there, well, playoff finals, and other cup finals at Wembley. It's one of those burdens. It has to go at some point.
Yeah.
So we can say, fourth time lucky now. You could probably say that. Hopefully, Exeter don't use that as an excuse. Oh, we've been here before, we've lost it again. It's how you get on in the 90 minutes rather than use the burden of, oh, we've been here before, we're going to lose.
I think, without using some cliches, it's a different type of cup final list. There's not going to be a crowd there. They haven't had the run of 40-odd games. I know they've obviously played them, but do you know what I mean? They haven't had that big run of games. They've had a gap. There's not necessarily the weariness that maybe there would have been going into them before. So I suppose it depends how they frame it, doesn't it? If you're a manager, that's what I would be trying to focus on, would be reframing it. Although this is the same game as we've lost previously, it's not, is it? It's a completely different way of playing it. So that might play in their favour. I don't know.
I think this is the most, as you said, it's probably going to be the most unique playoff finals we're ever going to experience. And to be honest, I don't think there's much peer pressure than it has been if there was a crowd there. It might work in Exeter's favour. Northampton have also lost playoff finals at Wembley as well. They got spanked 3-0 by Bradford back in 2013, and they conceded all 3 goals in the first 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So they have that burden as well. They don't want that peer pressure again of, we don't really want to go 3-0 down at half time in the playoff final. But yes, this is going to be the most unique playoff final ever. To be honest, both teams got nothing to lose.
Well, it's funny you say that. That's literally what I was about to say before, we sort of gone about the other bits. I think it'd probably be, I'd like to think it'd be one of the more entertaining playoff finals, because there's not that, I know it can work in your favour sometimes, but the big crowd, the pressure and all of that, and the weariness of your legs, actually, I think it might leave quite open football. Both teams are going to attack a bit more. And, cup finals are like, whether it's playoffs or FA Cup finals, they can be quite cagey sort of, I know it's a very cliche thing, but they can be quite cagey affairs, can't they? But actually, I think this might hopefully lead to a bit more of an expansive sort of cup final because of that, less sort of heaviness around the environment. I can't think of the word, not heaviness, but
I guess you mentioned something quite important, Charlie, which is we're not going to talk about form because form from 3 months ago isn't form. All we'll say is both had good comebacks in the second legs. That's the only form we can really read into it. The other thing I wanted to mention, the last general question really about the game, is something you touched on, being at Wembley. These guys have only had 2 games back after 3 months off. There's been limited training, of course. Wembley's a big pitch compared to most little League Two grounds, and Northampton's very tight and camped in. Obviously, I've been to watch them this season at home a couple of times. Craig, we did a vlog there. How is that pitch going to affect them?
Well, this is exactly right. You just nailed it on the head there with Wembley being a massive pitch. And luckily, you've got the 5 substitutes you can make. And I think that's going to game changers, as a Luton Town manager likes to say, it is going to be vital, I think. And if it's a hot weather day, that's going to be another problem as well. But
out of the 2 teams, like you said, I mean, we mentioned about it being a positive for them earlier, but actually maybe that big pitch, you talk about older heads for Northampton more, as much as you talk about the experience, 70, 75 minutes in on that sort of pitch, experience can only make up so much, can't it? I'm not saying they are, but, your legs might start to go a little bit, and especially with the lack of football maybe. So,
well, to be honest, Northampton play a long ball anyway, so they're going to pump it to Oliver up top. So it's literally as you said, for the midfielders, it's for them to get onto Oliver's touches or flick-ons or anything like that, get close to him. And I think that's how they did it against Cheltenham.
That saves your legs if it works, but if it doesn't, you can spend a lot of time chasing the ball then, can't you? You know, if you're the team who's defending against that. So, I don't know. But yeah, sorry, Dan. Anyway.
Yeah, you are right. I mean, Northampton do play the classic big man with a man running off him, don't they? That's what worked in the second leg with Oliver and Morton. Obviously, Exeter, Ryan Bowman up front. The final point on Exeter, because I know the fans probably wouldn't forgive us if we don't mention it. Matt Taylor in charge, led them or was involved in a team that won the playoff final in the conference in 2008. So he's got experience of winning at Wembley as well. So, and that's for the same club. So I know it's in a playing capacity, but it's definitely going to have an impact on the day, I would have thought. But that's enough talk. There is one thing we need to get to, and that is making idiots of ourselves. So, what do you think the score's going to be and why? Who wants to go first?
I'll go. Well, to be honest, I actually predicted Northampton to get promoted in the first place. I think they're going to do it. I really do. And it's going. I don't expect. I expect 2-1. 2-1 Northampton in extra time.
Okay, that's very, very bold. What about you, Charlie?
I agree with Craig to a point. I think there'll be lots of goals. I think you're talking about maybe, people haven't got a lot of minutes in their legs recently. We spoke about all the stuff we just spoken about. To me, it just sounds like both teams are going to leak goals. I think on the big pitch, they've already done that in the semi-finals. They both conceded quite a few, but also scored more, obviously. So I think there'll be a lot of goals in it. I'm going to go, I reckon it'll be a thriller. I reckon it'll be like, no. I'm going to go 4-2 Northampton.
Oh,
wow.
I'm going to go big.
To be honest, since the restart of football in England, there hasn't been games of that nature of a 4-2 or anything like that. So probably the first one in 40 matches now. So who knows?
But I just think I'd love to see that sort of game anyway. Either way, but yeah.
What a time for it to happen, though. To be fair, I will finish off by potentially making myself even more stupid after the championship results, because I've actually gone for an Exeter victory, and I have gone for a very cagey 1-0 win. And
well, you did predict Exeter to go up. So
I did. And the main reason I did it, actually, it goes back to something that was mentioned in yesterday's interview on the channel with Gregor Robertson, where he said after going to Wembley the year after a defeat, but then a victory, he said, we're almost certain on the way there. We just knew this chance wasn't going to let us pass us by. So with Exeter having a bit of experience in their team this year, I'm going to go for Exeter to nick a sneaky, cagey 1-0. All of the cliches and the complete opposite to Charlie bets, which may make me look stupid. So that's about it, I think. Craig and Charlie have both gone for Northampton wins. Charlie comprehensively, Craig in a tense extra time affair when everyone will be going down with cramp for sure. But let us know what you think down in the comments. Do you think I'm stupid, or do you think Charlie and Craig are stupid? If you did enjoy the episode, please put a thumbs up on it. Please subscribe to the channel for regular content, including championship predictions tomorrow night. And of course, get involved. What do you think the score's going to be? And hopefully we'll see you next time, not looking stupid.